1. Welcome to another edition of African American Ain't African, the only talk show in America that proves without a fact that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America stuffed in the trunk of a ship. Today is Tuesday, February 4th, the first Tuesday of Black History Month. We here at African Americans Ain't African feel that Black History Month should be every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're joined by Memphis. We here at African American feel that Black History Month should be an everyday affair, given the fact that we are going through hell here in America. So, this month we're going to try to put in as much information as we can, because we know this is the time of year that the majority of so-called African Americans, at least they're trying to look for their history. Not saying that they're always doing it, but hopefully this month they'll tune in and pick up a little bit more of what they didn't get earlier in the year or throughout the rest of the year. But we're here all year round. Today we're going to talk about something that everybody in the community sees is a problem in our community. And that's the straight disunity, the unfunctionality, the confusion that's going on in the community. And we've had guests earlier in our programs, Teacher Tiwa Khan, Rick Moon. We had Chief Langley come on to give us some of the remedies to some of our problems that are going on. We're going to keep up with that. But today we're going to talk about something that, I'm finding is just breaking the community down to dust, because it's conquering us with all these ideologies and stuff that really doesn't help the community at all. And to help us do this is going to be my co-host Rick Moon. Rick Moon, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good tonight, Buck. And also hello to all the listeners out there. You're going to get a little treat tonight, so get ready.
All right. Tonight our program is going to be on what is this, Rick, that you came up with called Boule Bleachout. Tell us about the Boule Bleachout, Rick.
Well, the reason why we came up with the name Boule Bleachout is, first of all, it was named, I got the Boule part from our fallen brother, Mr. Steve Coakley, who coined the term when he was talking about the black bourgeoisie that was really selling out on all the rest of our people. And then the bleach out, I got that from the ideology of the word black, which is bleach is one of the meanings. And if you look at Etymology of Modern English by Ernest Weekly, it'll show you that that's one of the meanings. So kind of put it together, and also thinking that it's time that we start to listen to something new. Tired of hearing the same guys talk about the same thing and it ain't doing nothing for us. So what I'm suggesting that we're gonna start doing, which I hope we can do, is on selected programs, we just gonna bleach somebody out. And you might not know you're not gonna know who it's gonna be until the program, but there's no telling who we gonna bleach out.
Now, Rick, earlier you were saying that the word black means bleach. Could you expound on that?
The word black really means nothing. Blacked out, it's just nothing there. And colorless. And being that bleach is one of the meanings of the word black, it's saying the same thing. And also, you also see what bleach would do to any dark color. If you wash it, it'll make it colorless, turn it white, which is also another meaning of the word black.
So, Rick, basically you're saying the word black, as it is relates to the so-called African American community or the black community, really that's a code word for nothing.
Yes, it is. Every person of any ethnicity in this world, except a few, us being part of them, name themselves after a language, a culture, a country. Like a French will tell you, yeah, I'm from France. I mean, a guy from France will say, I'm French. I speak French. My culture is French. You know, a guy from Australia, you know, well, he don't speak Australia, he actually speaks English. Bad example. A guy in Italy, you know, he speaks Italian. He subscribes to Italian culture. His land is named after his country and his culture. And we are some of the few. First of all, where is Africa, America? You know, where is black land? And these are a few of the questions that we need to answer. And we also I also feel that we need to call out some of the people who are making these accusations and telling us this garbage.
So, Rick, basically you're saying the words that we use, when we'll take the word black for example, the words we use, those confuse us and kind of like cast spells on us. Because you're right. Where is African American? Where is black land? And being that you say black really means bleach, and I think I heard that from a Yafa Bay at one time. Yafa brought that up and breaking down the word black and African and all that, and we'll get into those terms a little later. But I want to ask you, Rick, what does that do to us psychologically as a group of people?
Psychologically, it takes you away from your creation. It takes you away from the why you're here, your purpose here on this earth. You know, it takes you away from what you're supposed to be doing. By calling. Oh, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
No, Rick, go ahead. I was just gonna ask you, but I'll ask you. Go ahead. I don't want to break up that thought.
No, go ahead. You can go ahead and ask.
You know what? What I'm seeing is, so if what you say is true, and I'm starting to see the reality of it. If what you say is true, and we're going by that term, let's just go by black now. We are actually doing what the word intended, which is to bleach ourselves out.
That is correct.
That's
exactly what it does.
Can I give you an example?
Sure.
Michael Jackson. Is that an example?
Oh, perfect example. Perfect example.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example, Rick, of what I mean by that. As we know, Michael Jackson's mother and father started off in the Midwest dirt poor. They had a lot of children, and able to make themselves more viable, they had a lot of children, and they formed these children into a band. And I was a little boy when the Jackson 5 hit, but when they exploded on the scene, I have seen nothing like that ever again in my life. They came hard. They signed with a record company, and as like all stories go, the brothers made millions of dollars for the company. Later on, the group started to break down, and Michael left the group and started on his own. When he left the group, and this is where I'm saying the word black means bleach out. now you had this formidable group that were probably some of the best entertainers in the world, and now they start to break up. It's kind of like I'm following this time frame of the so-called black African American community. When Michael leaves, the group disintegrates and Michael goes on his own, where he disintegrates himself even further. And we all know what he ended up looking like at the end of his life. Is this what you're saying? Would this be a good example of what you mean by the word black being bleached out? Do you follow me, Rick?
Yes, I do. And to give you another example, this is exactly what all these other so-called black leaders.
Rick, you're kind of muffled.
Oh, sorry. All of these preachers, black leaders, government officials, all of these people, that's what they do. They rid themselves of community, so they basically bleach themselves out.
And so in bleaching themselves out, the group disintegrates, the group begins to disintegrate, and then they go on to disintegrate themselves into the arms of their masters.
Exactly what happens, and you hear about it every day, all the time, about a lot of actors, singers, all kinds of people that fall out of favor with the so-called powers that be because of something.
Area code 256-849-2227. African Americans Ain't African Radio here on Black Talk Radio Network. We can also be reached at AfricanAmericans.org, or you can find us on Facebook at the African American Ain't African chat room. Rick, can you give us some other thoughts and ideas on how this Boule, this bleach out occurs and it disintegrates the community?
Well, what it does, it separates us. I mean, we all kinds of people just start coming at you. Like you got the Christian preachers coming at you. You got these Moors coming at you. You got these people from the Nation of Islam coming at you. 5%ers, Hebrew Israelites, and Europeans, Afrocentrics. I mean, you just got all kinds of people coming at you, and it just confuses everybody because all of them have a different story, and actually none of them have the right story.
So would you say, Rick, that this is the impetus for divide and conquer?
Yes, I would say most definitely, because if you think back, when have we ever trusted anybody else? I mean, we've always been a loving people. We've always trusted each other. And when you can get your own to come in and deceive you, hey, it works real well because we're that type of people. We're very loving and forgiving people, and we'll forgive anybody.
Our guest is Rick Moon. The topic of tonight is the Boule Bleachout, how these different organizations come in to help destroy the so-called African American community. Now, Rick, you were talking a few groups. Can we look at the history of some of these groups and see how they have brought the African American community forward? Because what I want to concentrate on, Rick, and tell me if I'm wrong, is what the so-called African American, the so-called black, the so-called Negro, we have a destiny to fulfill. We didn't come on this planet to screw around. We didn't come on the planet to be entertained. We didn't come on the planet to shuck and jive. We're on this planet to help keep the planet in cosmic balance. So could you give us the history of a couple of these groups, one at a time, of course, and tell us where they come from and what their ultimate objective is?
Okay, I'll tell you a little. I did a little research earlier today, as a matter of fact, on a couple of these, and I I can start with the Moorish Science Temple of America, which was started by Noble Jew Ali, my homeboy from right here in North Carolina. And when I looked him up, I found some very interesting things about it. For instance, there is actually they're basically an Islamic group, and they call their holy book the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science, and that's their book. That's their Bible. And I looked a little more into it. Comes to find out that he made his Bible. He got it from the Rosicrucians back in the early 700s or something like that. From a book that they put out called "Unto Thee I Grant," and this book, if you want to know who the Rosicrucians were, they were a bunch of European secret societies in Germany. Now, this is where some of his scripture comes from their books. Come to find out also, he gets a lot of the rest of his book he gets from a guy named Levi Dowling. And the book is called The Aquarian Gospel. It's an excellent book. As a matter of fact, I have it right here, and I've read it. It's really a good book. It tells you a lot about how astrology works into the teachings of the Bible, which all you Christians need to know, because I hear a lot of Christians say that astrology is evil, where that's what your book is, a bunch of astrology. And this book is a good resource to look at in trying to find that out. And these are the books that he got this from. And to tell you who Levi Dowling was, he was a European preacher that had Scottish and Welsh descent from Ohio. So he's basically getting all this information from Europeans. And, and he's got everybody, and none of his members are European. And that's one of the groups I looked up.
Wait a minute, Rick. Let's stop for a second. So you're saying this guy is grabbing the information of Europeans and taking it and trying to rewrap it into a black nationalist movement?
He created his holy book from these European resources.
So let me get this straight. So what you're telling me is this is one of the main prongs in how we're always confused in the community, because we take on the ideologies of others and try to make them fit us.
That is correct. That is very correct. And you'll find a whole bunch of other similarities with the rest of them that I talk about also.
So give us another group that's similar to the Moorish Science Temple.
Okay. I'll give you one that a lot of people are probably familiar with. The Hebrew Israelites. Now, the Hebrew Israelites is actually incorporated, which makes them like really a company. And they were created right here in the United States by a fellow named F.S. Cherry in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Excuse me, but I thought you said Hebrew Israelites.
Yes, I did.
But shouldn't they be created in Israel?
You would think.
Okay, so you have a group that was created here calling themselves foreigners.
That is correct.
I'm confused. I'm confused, Rick.
I'm confused myself, man, but I'm just stating the facts.
So tell us some more about the Hebrew Israelites.
Okay. Also, what they get most of their beliefs from Judaism and Christianity, and including the New Testament. And their book is called Church of the Living God, the Pillar Ground of the Truth for All Nations. And that's about all I really have on them.
Before
But
you go any further,
another thing
before
about them though, is they're supposed to be Jews, but the European Jews they don't accept them.
well, doesn't the European Jews come from whoever the original Jews are?
The ones that in charge, they come from Europe.
So who are what we call Jews? Who are they? I'm talking about the European ones, the ones that are destroying the people over in Palestine. Aren't those Jews?
Yes, those are Jews with German, French, Italian, Swedish, whatever you want to say, as descendants.
So basically the Jews over there are kind of like the so-called Americans over here. Europeans who call themselves Americans, Europeans who call themselves Australian, Europeans that call themselves Afrikaners. That's basically the game that's being played.
Correct.
Okay, Rick, can we just back up for a minute? I want to go back to the Moors. What do you think the Moors, what do you think they bring to the liberation of the so-called African American? Or how have they helped liberate the African American thus far?
They haven't helped the so-called African Americans at all. For one thing, in all you people who call yourselves Moors, the only way you're going to make anything happen is you're going to have to trace your ancestry back to Morocco.
And many of the Moors, they are not able to do that, right?
I haven't met one that could.
So with just that one group alone, that splinters the community big time.
Yes, they do a lot of damage. As a matter of fact, I got friends, people that I went to school with, that's Hebrew Israelites, friends who got uncles, nieces, sons, and daughters that's in it. I know a few.
Okay, same question with the Hebrew Israelites. What do the Hebrew Israelites do to connect the so-called African American back to his ancestral homeland?
Hey, their holy book is basically the Bible, so they're trying to trace us back to biblical times.
So are the two groups in any way connected, or do they share some of the same ideology, same teachings?
No, I don't. No, they don't. The Hebrew Israelites are more into religion, the religious aspects of it, and I would say the Moors, as far as, and I'm talking about the science temple, they're more, what they say, science, which I put with the word lie.
Oh, okay. So one is religious and one is science.
Yeah, philosophy. Basically that's what the Moors are. I mean, like I said, they basically got their philosophy from the Rosicrucians in Germany and Levi Dowling's Aquarian Gospel.
Rick, one of the things that I notice about the Moors when they speak, they never talk about what they did wherever their home was. Because one of the questions I always ask is, well, where do the Moors come from? And one of the answers I always get, we all over the world. But when you look all over the world, you don't see Moors there.
Well, I get that too. But let me give you a couple of more, say a couple more things about the Moors. Now, if you're talking about the original Moors, I looked this up, found out that the original Moors are actually from the Iberian Peninsula, places like that, Sicily. Basically they were European.
Excuse me?
The original Moors, when I looked it up, it said the original Moors, the first ones that into existence came from Maghreb, Iberian Peninsula, Ceuta, Monica, Sicily, and Malta. And these places today are called Spain, Portugal, and part of France.
So you have indigenous people claiming that themselves are people who conquered. They're claiming themselves as the conquerors. That's what it sounds like, Rick.
That's what I get out of it too. But check this out though. As of 1911, the term Moor has no real ethnicity. So my question is, who are they then? Where is Moor's land?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically what we do, so would you say these groups are they? Well, I guess they would be Boule, because one of the things about the Boule, the emblem of the Boule, is the Sphinx with his paw over the king's secrets. And could it be that these groups are giving the masses of us information that doesn't connect us to a damn thing, and keeping the secrets to themselves while they live how they live? Or how is that done? Because these groups, Rick, they have to see what's going on in the community.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I like to call these people like Noble Drew Ali and F.S. Cherry, because everybody look at them as prophets. So I put a little addition to it. I call them prophets for profit.
I see. Okay, so going back to the Hebrew Israelites, what is the Hebrew Israelites? What is their purpose? How do they serve the so-called African American community?
My experience is they basically give you a lot of the same stuff that the Christians give you, but they just try to make everything us. They try to relate us to these places, the same places that Christians try to relate us to, and which we don't know nothing about, never been there, don't even know the environment of it. And that's basically what they do too, only they might be a little more radical.
So here we have two groups, and these groups, so do these groups have any connection to the people of America? I mean, aside from what you said about making a whole bunch of money off the community, do these groups have any roots from the indigenous people of America?
Well, I think that most of them are indigenous to America. They're just a bunch of greedy individuals, that's profiting off of other people.
Are there any other groups, Rick?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, uh, let's stay on the Hebrew Israelites for a minute. Now because that was only one faction of the Hebrew Israelites here in America. There's actually 4 different ones, and I'll share a little bit about them too. They have one that calls themselves the Church of God and Saints of Christ, and they were created in by a guy named William Saunders Crowdy in 1899 in Lawrence, Kansas. And his belief was that African Americans are descendants of the Jewish and the Christians.
I'm even more confused, Rick.
Yeah, and they are also called Hebrew Israelites too.
So was that Rick? Come on. Are we that lame-brained?
I would hope to say that we're not. Well, put it this way: if you want me to tell the truth, yeah, we this lame-brained.
So people can just tell us anything. It doesn't have to. And I'm seeing where that line of thinking is taking us further and further and further away from ourselves. So that's like if I came to talk to you, and you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I started telling you about Russia, and giving you all the philosophies of Russia, and giving you all the religious ideas of Russia, and I've given you all the cultural idea of Russia, and you start taking on and being that ideology. Now you're a Negro Russian living in North Carolina. That's about the basis of it.
Yes, hey, but I'm not finished with them yet, though. So let's go to the next group of Israelites. They call themselves the Commandment Keepers. They were created by a fellow named Wentworth Arthur Matthew in Harlem. Now, this fella says that we are the descendants of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. And he also was a Garveyite.
So what is their contribution in helping the so-called African American liberate himself?
They haven't made any contributions that I know of. The only contribution I know of is mixing people up.
Well, let me ask you.
Yeah, that's the contribution they made.
Are any of these groups started by females or women?
Not the ones that I've looked up so far. And let me give you the next one. This is the last one. They call themselves the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. They from African, Hebrew, Israel, and Jerusalem. Now these, they say that we are the descendants of the tribe of Judah, and it was established by a fella. His original name was Ben Carter, but he changed his name to Ben Ami Ben Israel, and he created that in Chicago.
So they're up there with the Nation of Islam.
Yes, yeah. They right there in Chicago, right there with Farrakhan.
So what is their ideas, or what is the purpose of? Could you see? I'm getting confused, brother. Could you? What is their purpose? I know you say the purpose is to confuse, but what is their ideology? What are they teaching the people? that we're from?
Yeah, like I said, they're teaching the people that we from the tribe of Judah, wherever that is.
So that's four different. That's four different heads sprouted out of one.
Right. All of them sprouted out of the Hebrew Israelites.
Wow. Are there any others?
Not enough, but if I can get back on the Moors again, got a couple little bit more information. Like I said earlier, in 1911, the term Moor was said to not have any kind of ethnicity at all. Well, check out some more uses of the word Moor. In Spain, Moor was a derogatory term. But they called them Moro. The French called them Mare. The Portuguese called them Muro. The Romanians called them Mar. Brazilians called them Moreno. And I'm like, American is an American no matter where he's at. An Italian is an Italian no matter where he's at. You know, but the term Moor means different things. Different things, and I got a lot of that out of if you read the book Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes, he gives a lot of information about that too. As a matter of fact, I'll go through my notes here. There was in 1771 on page. This is on page 82 of the book Natives, Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes. The terms Moor, nigger, nager, Kafir, the slave, all were meant the same. If you go to 1883, the French Dutch dictionary called them Moor an inhabitant of Mediterranean, which is the African. The Dutch say a Moor is a North African.
So, well, if that's true, then what is a Washita Moor? Don't they have some Moors that supposedly come out of Louisiana, that are indigenous to Louisiana, that calls themselves the Washita Moors? Is that another offshoot? You know, because you broke that, you showed so many offshoots of the Hebrew Israelites. Is the Washita Moor, is that an offshoot of the Moors?
Yeah, I would say they were. They're just another offshoot from what Noble Drew Ali kicked off.
256-849-2227. That's 256-849-2227. African Americans Ain't African Radio. Rick, are there any more? I mean, that's, you just went through in the past 40 minutes. You just introduced us to 5 splinter groups. How many more are there?
Okay. Here's another group. I'm sure most of us have heard of this group. It's called the Nation of Islam, which was created by a fellow named Wallace D. Fard Muhammad in Detroit in 1930. Wallace D. Fard Muhammad, well, they say that he was mixed, but if you look at pictures of him, he looked straight European to me.
So what was his shtick?
his thing was that we were all from the tribe of Shabazz. We from a whole lot of different tribes, ain't we? And to mention another one, I looked up. This is actually an offshoot of the Nation of Islam. A fella named Clarence 13X created a group called the Five Percenters. Today they're known as the Nation of Gods and Earth. But they're the five percenters, and they were created by Clarence 13X. He was in the Nation of Islam. He broke off from them, created the Five Percenters in Harlem in 1964. And they say that Asiatic blacks are the originators of the whole earth.
Okay, I find it in. I hear that. I hear that cry a lot. That we were all over the place first, and if that was the case, it's kind of like. Let me give it to you from my small point of view. Let's say, Reg, I lived in Montana, and you came, and I'm all around in Montana, and you came to Montana from, I don't know, let's say Mauritania. How do you come into Mauritania? And if I'm all over Montana, how do you come into Mauritania? How, if we were all over the planet, then why are we all dominated? Am I
That's a
making
good question.
sense? Because I hear that all the time, and that's what I mean about how it just brings confusion to the community. If we're all over the place, if you got boys in Australia, if you got boys in China, if you got your Amazons in the Brazilian rainforest, if you connected to all these people and you people are one, how did you get dominated and get your ass kicked by a tiny population on the planet? Because we're up to what, about 6 splinter groups now?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said we're up to about what, 6 splinter groups now?
Yeah, that's wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8, actually. Now, and we haven't gotten into Christianity, politicians, sports heroes, singers, movie actors, Afrocentric, and, they got people going even in more directions outside of these 8 groups.
So Rick, what does it look like? One of the things that we hear in the community, and this may not be a possibility, but I'd like to get your take on it. One of the things in the so-called African American community is everybody's calling for the African American community to unite. Unification is damn near impossible with all of these splinter groups going on. Would you say?
Yes, I would. It'd be very difficult to get any kind of unity because you got too many people coming at you at too many different ways, telling you different things, and the thing that how we hurt ourselves is that we don't even check out these people who's telling us all this stuff.
So somebody can come just tell me that I am the descendant of Queen of Sheba and King David, and I won't ask my mother or grandmother. I'll just believe it. Or what percentage of these ideologies are taught in school? A formal school, the schools that we go to, junior high, high school, college. What percentage of these are taught in those forms, Rick?
Uh, I ain't quite getting what you're saying.
The groups that you just named.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if you go to college, is there a study of the Nation of Islam and their ideology? Who does the Nation of Islam?
If you go to probably some of the more prestigious colleges in America, you probably could find some information on a lot of these groups that they actually teach. But if you're talking about the junior college level on down, no, I don't think they teach any of this in the schools. And some of these people, even like the Nation of Islam, they actually have their own schools anyway. Although they don't have as many as they used to have because they lost a lot of the clout that they used to have.
And why is that?
Sleeping with the enemy, I think.
Malcolm X was to me, that's how I first got turned on to the Nation of Islam. And it wasn't so much the Nation of Islam that he was teaching, because every time he said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, I just liked what Malcolm was saying and how Malcolm viewed the world. And it opened up my eyes to how the world was. And that's what I got out of Malcolm X. It was so-called, it was the message that he was delivering instead of the message. I wasn't really paying attention to his beliefs into the Nation of Islam. I was paying attention to how he was interpreting the world from his point of view. The Nation of Islam, how do they set their roots in America? What are the origins of them getting their roots with this Fard Muhammad? What did he come over here and convince the so-called Negro or black people at the time? What did it take for him to convince us that we were supposed to be Islamic?
I don't know how he did it, to be honest with you, but when you talk a good game, you talk a good game, and a lot of people went for it. But I will say this in kind of defense of the Nation of Islam. When Elijah Muhammad took over the Nation of Islam, they were actually in the communities helping a lot of people. They had stores, they had a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I can remember when I was in junior high school, it was they had a store right across the street from the school, and I could just walk right across the street and get something from them. They had a lot of land, they had a lot of stuff, but today, since Farrakhan has taken over, they've lost a lot of what their clout, of what they have, and now the only time I see them in the community now is when they're trying to sell them newspapers.
So what happened? What happened if they were? How did they lose their business acumen? Because let me give you an example. I see Koreans coming over. Their businesses aren't dying out. Their businesses are growing. I'm seeing Arabs come over. Their businesses aren't dying out. Their businesses are growing. What happened? What happened where the Nation of Islam, why did their businesses start dying out? And before you go to that, Rick, answer. This is a question I want to know. With the Nation of Islam, the Million Man March. Here's an example. The Million Man March. I never understood that, and you have guys talking about that today. And this is what I mean about how these groups are confusing. What was the purpose of the Million Man March, and what did it do? Since we're talking about, since we're talking,
here's what I can say about the Million Man March, because as a matter of fact, I actually went myself, and I'm kind of in agreement with the Afrocentric John Henry Clark. He was talking about the Million Man March. He said it was a waste of time and shoe leather.
Rick, could it be that these groups that you named, could it be that they are the impetus to allow all of the foreign people to come over here and set up shop businesses in the so-called African American community? And with these groups are there, I don't know if they're there for protection. I don't know if they're there to help facilitate these business grow. But since these groups are foreign, since these are foreign groups, could it be that these groups are there to help facilitate the business of these foreign entities?
I don't think so. I think they here. I think they here because they know this is the land of milk and honey.
Right. I understand
that. It is the land of milk and honey.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I got you on that. I understand. But could it be? I mean, because all the groups that you just named, what are their businesses enterprises in the community? What are their economic enterprises in the community?
Oh, okay, I got you. I guess they're pockets because I don't see very many people. I don't see any businesses that they're opening up, or any schools that they're opening up, or anything. If anything, they're closing. If they have them, a lot of these groups, like where are the more science? Where their stores at? Another group that we haven't even talked about is the little group headed by Malachi York. I mean, he's got a different view of things too.
Now, is Malachi York, is he an offshoot of the previous groups that you talked about?
This is what I know, because I actually had experience even before he became Malachi York. When he changed his name, they used to call themselves the Ansurla community, and I met this brother. He was from L.A., but he was living in Washington D.C. And he had no plans on going back to L.A. because he liked it in D.C. But they actually had a community up there, and it was called the Ansurla community. And I almost joined it myself because he said a lot of convincing stuff for me, and at the time I was still searching for an identity too. And I almost joined it myself.
So there you named about 15 different splinter groups. 50. So what do these groups have in common? What do these groups have in common with what's going on in the so-called African American community today?
I'll tell you one thing that these groups have in common is not necessarily with the African American community, but the ones that I'm talking about. If you noticed, when I was talking about their beliefs and where they came from and stuff like that, all of them came back went back made a beeline for Europe and some white philosophy. And as far as them helping us in the community, what have they done? I mean, like I said, I can't comment on that really because I don't know what they're doing. I see a lot of brothers getting confused and talking about how proud they was, of being Moors or whatever they were, but they seem to me they still doing the same things they were doing before they got that identity change.
Area code 256-849-2227. African Americans Ain't African Radio. We can also be reached at AfricanAmericans.org. Listeners, if you're listening, please go to AfricanAmericans.org and go to our products page and support us. Rick, oh man, I find it, with what's going on to us in there, what's happening to us in America, I find it amazing that these groups, even the head of these groups, haven't came together on one united front to do something that would be uplifting to the community. Why do you think that is, Rick? Or why do you think that doesn't happen?
Like I said earlier, it's because of profits. If these guys are making money, and well, the descendants of these guys, the guys who's taken over since these organizations were created, they still making money. So they're gonna, they don't care. They don't care if it's the truth or not. It's profitable for them. They could care less. They could care less what you get out of it or what anybody else got to get out of it, as long as they're getting something out of it.
Yes. We have a few callers online. Any callers? Did any callers have any comments or anything to add to the discussion this evening? Rick, are there any other groups that we should be looking out for?
Hello.
And it doesn't have to. And I'm sure the groups that you just named, many of those groups, they're really obscure in the black community. I mean, they're not in the mainstream. Now, these are like small, even the Nation of Islam, they're not major when it comes to the mainstream. As a matter of fact, I would say entertainment has more pull over the black masses than the Nation of Islam. But are there any other groups or any other ideologies that the so-called African American holds on to that keeps him from fulfilling his destiny or reaching his goals? Or at least putting him on the level that you see other nations coming over here doing.
Well,
because let me give you an example, Rick. The Korean War, brothers went over and fought and helped the United States conquer and divide the peninsula known as Korea. 50, 60 years later, we see what's going on with the Koreans in our community. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these groups that you just mentioned has been here longer than the Korean groups, longer than the Vietnamese groups, who the Vietnamese is running the shrimping industry down in New Orleans. So my question simply, Rick, is what is it about these groups? What is it exactly about these groups that has the community so twisted? Is it possible that they're just teaching us that we're nothing?
I actually think that a lot of these groups, what a lot of these groups are teaching, and what a lot of people in the community are getting out of these groups is a lot of these groups are kind of, I think what most people want and what most people like is when you can put them at the top. We love being at the top. And when somebody puts you first, to a lot of us, it don't make no difference who it is. If he put us first, that's what we want to be. That's just like a lot of these politicians that, when they run for office, a lot of us, we just vote for them because they black. It really ain't no real big reason why. So I think, anything that puts them at the top, they'll take it. and that's why they take a lot of this African philosophy, a lot of this Christian philosophy, Moorish philosophy, all of them. They gravitate to it because it's putting them first, putting them ahead of everybody else, and because of that, it don't make no difference what they're trying to get across. It don't make no difference if they don't even and what even make it worse, most of the leaders of these organizations know that they're giving you bull jive, but people just take it.
Are there any redeeming qualities, any of these groups? And when I say redeeming qualities, let me give you my idea of what the so-called African American community is supposed to be doing. The first thing, we're not supposed to be getting our asses kicked like we're getting them now. And when I say that, I don't mean physically, but I'm in all areas of human activity. It's like we're at the bottom and being dominated by people who are from other lands. So it's like these people are coming over teaching some of us, a few of us, their philosophies to help us facilitate them coming over here. That's what all that seems like to me.
That's exactly what it is. People got to realize Europeans come over here to teach you how to be European. That's the only thing he can do. A Chinese can only teach you how to be Chinese. He can't teach you how to be anything else because he's never been anything else. African can only tell you of his experience in Africa. He can't tell you about your experience here because he don't know nothing about it. And these people come over here and they are living lavishly off of us, and we actually look up to a lot of them.
So I'm saying, okay, so again, being that we're Arabic, being that we have the Nation of Islam, is it possible that the Nation of Islam, they shop in Islamic stores since they have an Islamic ideology? The Hebrew Israelites, isn't it possible that they have a Jewish way of thinking and a Jewish way of doing things? Because we know that the Christians do, the Africans do. So all of those ideologies, all of that mind power, all of that brain power is sucked away from us into other people. That's what it sounds like you're explaining to us, Rick.
Well, that's what's happening. I mean, everybody is profiting off us, except us. I was talking to a friend earlier today, and one of the first things he said was, "We don't run anything. All we are consumers," and that's exactly what we are. And we don't seem like we want to have anything. We like it that way,
Yeah, I definitely know. Also, this idea that we are the minority. How is it that we're the minority if we are making so many people rich? It seems like we're the footstool to the world. And I want to know, how is this that we're the minority? Is it that we're the minority because somebody told us the minority? Or when you look around and you see what's happening in all these communities, is that where we're just told to make us seem like we're isolated from one another, like there's not that many of us, and it's easy for the foreigners to come over here and just take charge?
Exactly. And the word minority, all it means is that you're a juvenile. You don't know any better. You can't make your own decisions. So that's how we're going to treat you. And we take on these names because, because we've been separated into all these different factions and different sects and everything, and it's crazy.
African Americans Ain't African Radio. Our guest tonight is Rick Moon. Rick, is there a contact email or a contact number people can get with you if they want to contact you and find out more about what you're talking about tonight?
Yes, I do have an email address. Email address is rlive22@gmail.com.
One more time,
as
Rick.
in the word, as in the letter, as in the word Rick. Live is in it's alive 22@gmail.com.
Rick, in closing, some of the things that you mentioned about these splinter groups, what are some of the things that those of us who don't look at us ourselves as a foreigner, what are some of the things that we could do to help make it better for the community and ourselves?
The first thing that we in the community, and I'm talking about every last one of us who call ourselves a so-called African American, the first thing you need to do is go talk to your elders. They're the ones that love you. They're the ones that brought you into this world. They're the ones that you trust, and they trust you. This is the first step that every so-called African American should take. And if you don't take that step, and most of us don't, that's why we're sidetracked, because we don't do that. I mean, the biggest reason why we have trouble finding out who we are is because who we are has been given to somebody else. And because we don't talk to our elders, we think that they don't know that stuff because they're not going to teach you this stuff in school. They think the school's going to teach you. Who created the schools? Europeans. What can they teach you? What Europeans do. They can't teach you what you do. And that's the first step that we need to take. Talk to your elders because they know. You just don't want to talk to them because you think they don't know anything.
Wow. Well, Rick, we really, really appreciate you coming and sharing that information with you, because the confusion that these groups is just crazy. I mean, we're not trying as a group of, especially the males, we're not trying to get no land. We're not trying to build our own cities. We're not trying to create any industry. And I'm wondering and since we're looking at what's going on around us, we obviously see what's going on around us, but it's like we're in a catatonic state. We can't move, and we can't do anything to help us move and to help us do something to stave off this elimination that we see coming. So I want to thank you for bringing that to the attention of the audience. I really, really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. And to get back on I want to talk a little bit about the Boule Bleachout some more.
Okay.
What I want to say is, as far as the Boule Bleachout goes, we're going to be doing this from time to time, and we're going to choose different people to bleach out. Don't be surprised who we might bleach out, because we liable to bleach out anybody. So, although tonight we talk a lot about a lot of these so-called black groups, Islamic groups, Moorish groups, or whatever, they're just part of the problem. They're not the whole problem. And we're gonna bleach out everybody. If you're not going the right way, we're gonna let you know.
Now wait a minute, Rick. 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 Wait a minute. Now you have some people who would say, now you're pushing an ideology. if you're not going the way that we want you to go. Many would say that you're pushing an ideology. What would you say to that?
Let me rephrase myself. Man, I really didn't mean to say that. But what I'm saying is, my ideology is that our purpose is to serve what serves us. We get our food from the earth. We get our shelter from the earth. We get our medicine from the earth. We receive just about everything from the earth, and we don't take care of it. We trash it. And this is our environment. This is the environment that our people originally came from. We just let other people destroy it.
So Rick, what is the
forest?
Rick? Okay. So what is the ramifications? I hear you on that. So that's like me coming into your house, trashing it, tearing down the walls, taking whatever I want out of your house, and don't leave you nothing. What is the ramifications of us putting ourselves in that position?
The ramifications is death. That is the ramifications. If you study the Egyptians, we headed the same direction that they went to. We're going to have the same fate that they had.
So basically you're saying, and it seems like Negroes are just happy that the condition that we're in. So maybe that is the reason. So the environment is being changed from one that we can live in to one that we can't live in. Like you were talking about the forest. Could you expound on the forest a little bit again?
The forest is the natural environment of this land called America. And when I say America, I'm not talking about North America. I'm not only talking about North America. I'm talking about South America. I'm talking about what some people call Central America, which actually is North America, but some people call it Central America. The so-called the Caribbean, Alaska, Canada, the Pacific Islands, to include Hawaii, Samoa, Tonga, all those places. Anywhere on the face of this earth that is considered America. And when I say America, I'm not talking about North or South America. I'm talking about America, the whole landmass. And the forest is the natural environment of the people who this earth created as the indigenous people in America. And that forest is being chopped down every single day. I see it. Every day I walk out of my house and go up the street. I see where they're just destroying our environment. And we just let it happen because we don't know. We don't know. Those trees are your lifeline. And we're just letting it be destroyed. Europeans don't need the type of oxygen that we need. That's why they climb these 35,000 foot mountains all the way up to the top where ain't no oxygen. They can do that. You don't see no brothers up there doing that or no sisters. We wouldn't make it halfway. Most of us wouldn't make it halfway because there's no oxygen up there. So they don't need the oxygen that you need. So they can just cut down every tree and everything that they want to. I think I said this on an earlier program. Females didn't have to go to no salon to get no perm once upon a time. If you go back to the 60s, they didn't have to do that because all the moisture was in the air. They could make their hair any style they wanted to. because it was
Yeah,
so much moisture in the air. That air is disappearing. We building all these cities, putting up all this concrete everywhere, covering the earth.
there used to
You
be a
know,
time
just
there
doing
when you sit.
all kinds of things. We're killing they're killing all the natural environment in America. That's why they have duck season, deer season, rabbit season. That's why they have these seasons. If you talk, they don't have a dog season or a sheep season or a cow season because these are not indigenous animals. And as a matter of fact, it was a lady on Black Talk Radio that said that cows and horses were indigenous. My question to her is, what cow you seen in the forest? What horse you seen in the forest? Because that is the natural environment here. And the environment was created for the so-called African American.
I was in Charlotte a few years ago, and I pulled up a newspaper article, and it was explaining how Charlotte was being turned into a desert, mainly by the things that you were just saying. Uh, just total destruction of the habitat, just tearing down the trees, pouring concrete over everything. How was that? How was that going today, Rick?
It's still going on. It's getting less and less. As a matter of fact, just right up the street from my house, ain't even a half a mile. They cut down at least about 3 or 4 acres of trees. You know, fortunately, where I live at now, there still is some forest left, but it is growing rapidly.
So, Rick, would you say
And
Would you say? I mean, let me interject here. Would you say that's basically what happened to Egypt? The people became Roman and Greeks, and whatever they were created for by the earth, or whatever they were created for by life, they abandoned that and start taking on these foreign concepts and ideologies. Are you saying that's what happened to us, or that's what's happening to us?
that's exactly what's happening to us. And all of these so-called people that everybody want to look up to as these great people, they know it too. But they ain't going to tell you because it's too profitable for them not to tell you.
Yes, I always thought it interesting that the so-called African American man doesn't mine the trees, he doesn't go get the coal, he doesn't process steel. The so-called African American man doesn't make cars. The so-called African American male doesn't produce airplanes. The so-called African American man really doesn't produce anything. I'm talking as a group. Of course, there are thousands, probably millions of brothers around here who are producing something, but since we fall up under the guise of so many different umbrellas, it's hard for us to coagulate that thing into something that could make us a nation of people that can hold our own against other nations of people. Would you say that's the? Would you agree with that, Rick?
I agree totally. I agree totally with what you just said. That's exactly what we do and where we're headed and all of that.
Well, Rick, once again, I want to thank you for being our guest tonight. We have a few callers online. If there are any callers that would like to participate and give us your ideas and thoughts on what you heard tonight, please feel free. Okay, Rick. Well, I really, really appreciate your time tonight, and I really, really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
Yeah, thanks again, for having me on, and thanks for all the people out there listening to the program, and beware because you never know who is going to get bleached out next.
Oh, thanks, Rick. We appreciate it. We're going to be back again Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have Chief Langley from the Uchi tribe. Um, Genealogy. This brother is showing us some genealogy traits and some things that we can do to connect ourselves back to our people here in America. Please join us next Thursday at same time, 7 p.m., 4 p.m. Pacific time, when we have Chief Langley. We're going to have Chief Langley on for about another 2 months or so, because the information that he has is so vast, and me and a team that I'm with, we are checking out the information because it's so much, and what we're doing, we're coming back together and putting it together like a puzzle. So please join us Thursday night for Chief Langley from the Uchi tribe. And thank you again for listening to African Americans Ain't Africans. Everybody have a good evening. Peace.